All right, strap in, everyone, because today we're taking a deep dive into app chains.
App chains, yeah.
You've probably seen the term pop up more and more lately, especially with all the buzz surrounding this project called Spire Labs.
Definitely a hot topic.
So, you sent over a bunch of articles and even Spire Labs light paper, and you want to know, what's the big idea?
Yeah.
What's Spire Labs all about? And what is this based stack thing they're building?
Right.
All that, without getting lost in the technical weeds.
Yeah, no jargon today.
No jargon, I promise.
No sort of plan.
So maybe we can start with a quick overview,
Sure.
What is Spire Labs trying to achieve with app chains?
Okay, so in a nutshell, Spire Labs wants to build a more kind of unified and user-friendly ecosystem for app chains.
Okay.
And they're doing that with their base stack, which is, it's like a framework or a blueprint for creating these things called based app chains.
Okay.
Now, what's really interesting about Spire Labs is the team behind it.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
They've got people with backgrounds in everything,
Yeah, what kind of backgrounds?
high-frequency trading and data analysis,
Yeah.
systems and blockchain engineering,
Interesting mix.
even experts in coordination systems,
Yeah.
like how to get people to actually work together,
That's pretty wild.
It's a pretty impressive lineup. And it shows in their approach, I think.
Yeah, you don't often see that kind of diversity of expertise in a single team, especially in the crypto world.
Right. It's not just about code with them,
Right.
They're thinking about the economics, the user experience, the whole ecosystem around it.
Okay, so let's dig into that a bit.
Yeah.
What is this problem that Spire Labs is trying to solve with their based stack and based app chains?
Okay, so the problem is fragmentation.
Fragmentation, right.
Basically, the crypto world right now is
Like what?
imagine if every website used its own internet.
Whoa.
Yeah, it'd be a total mess.
A nightmare.
A nightmare.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's happening in crypto right now.
Okay.
You've got all these different blockchains and app chains popping up.
Yeah, everyone's launching their own chain these days.
It's like the Wild West out there.
Right.
And the problem is they don't always talk to each other very well.
Okay.
So you've got liquidity, users, developers, all spread out
Yeah.
across all these different silos.
Silos, right.
It's bad for developers because it makes it harder to build things that work seamlessly across the ecosystem.
Okay.
And it's bad for users because it creates a really clunky and, fragmented experience.
I can see that. So, what kind of, real-world problems does this fragmentation cause?
Well, for one, it can make it really hard to move your assets between different chains.
Right, like transferring tokens or coins.
Exactly. And it also hinders composability.
Composability, yeah. Remind me what that is again.
Basically, it's the ability of different apps to interact with each other to kind of build on top of each other.
Sure.
So, for example, let's say you want to use a lending app on one blockchain, and then you want to take those assets that you borrowed
Yeah.
and trade them on a different blockchain.
Right.
Right now, that can be incredibly difficult,
Yeah.
if not impossible.
And this is because of the lack of composability between these different chains.
Exactly. And it's a problem that Spire Labs is trying to solve.
I'm starting to get the picture, and it sounds like a lot of, existing apps on Ethereum are kind of realizing this fragmentation problem too.
Right.
I read that a lot of them they're thinking about launching their own app chains,
Yeah.
but they're worried about, giving up all the advantages of being connected to Ethereum.
Absolutely is a trade-off.
Yeah, it's a tough choice.
Yeah. So that's where Spire Labs and their base rollups come in.
Okay, let's talk about that. So based rollups, what are those?
So instead of building completely separate blockchains,
Okay.
the idea is to use Ethereum as a foundation,
Oh, interesting.
but with some clever tweaks to make it more efficient and scalable. So basically, you're getting the best of both worlds.
So you're saying they're building on top of Ethereum.
Yeah, essentially.
But I mean, isn't Ethereum already kind of slow and expensive?
Right. That's a common misconception.
Okay.
And it's something that Spire Labs addresses head on with their approach.
Okay, I'm curious. How do they address that?
So the key is something called based sequencing.
Okay. Based sequencing.
Now, typically, every blockchain needs its own mechanism to determine the order of transactions.
Okay, like a traffic controller.
Yeah, exactly. It's called a sequencer.
The sequencer.
Okay, but with base sequencing, Spire Lab says, hey, why don't we just use Ethereum sequencer?
So they're piggybacking on Ethereum's infrastructure?
In a way, yes.
So what's the big advantage of doing that?
Well, several advantages, actually.
Okay.
First off, it allows app chains to tap into Ethereum's massive pool of liquidity.
Okay, so better access to capital.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Secondly, it means these app chains inherit Ethereum security.
Oh, so they automatically get, like, the same level of security as Ethereum.
Essentially, yes.
Wow. That seems almost too good to be true.
I mean, to be fair, no system is perfectly secure,
Right.
right? But by leveraging Ethereum's code and infrastructure, which has been, battle tested for years,
Okay. Yeah.
you're getting a huge head start in terms of security.
So they're essentially standing on the shoulders of giants.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. But didn't you mention that Ethereum was having some issues with its current sequencer?
Ah, yes, MEV boost. That's a whole other can of worms.
Okay, so what's the deal with that? Is that something to be concerned about?
So there are some valid concerns that MEV boost is too centralized
Right.
and that it could lead to slower block times.
Right.
But Spire Labs is basically betting that these issues will be resolved
Resolved? How?
through upcoming Ethereum upgrades.
Okay. Like what?
Things like inclusion lists and commit boost.
Interesting. So they're basically saying, like, trust us, Ethereum is going to fix these
But
problems.
more like, we believe in Ethereum's long-term vision.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we've designed our system to be flexible enough to adapt.
It's a gamble, but I mean, I can see the logic behind it.
It's a calculated risk, for sure.
Okay, so we've talked about liquidity, we've talked about security.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned something about composability earlier, right?
Right. So because based app chains all share Ethereum sequencer,
Hmm.
they can interact with each other and with Ethereum itself in a much more seamless way.
Okay.
So it's like finally solving that fragmentation problem.
It's like they're all speaking the same language now.
Exactly.
Okay, so instead of all these like isolated blockchain islands,
Right.
you get a more interconnected and hopefully, user-friendly ecosystem.
That's the dream.
And that's what Spire Labs is aiming for.
That's the goal, yeah.
Yeah.
And this leads to another key aspect of their approach: customizable composability.
Okay, customizable composability. That sounds complicated.
It's actually not as complex as it sounds.
Okay, well, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay, so think of it like this. Imagine an NFT marketplace
Mm-hmm.
built on a Spire app chain.
Okay.
And this marketplace wants to allow trading of CryptoPunks.
CryptoPunks, yeah. Those are on the Ethereum mainnet, right?
Exactly. So with customizable composability,
Okay.
this app chain could directly access and update the CryptoPunks contract data,
Okay.
enabling seamless trading between the app chain and Ethereum.
So it's like creating a bridge, but it's more than just a bridge, right?
Right. It's like a super flexible and customizable bridge.
Okay, so they're not just making it possible to connect, they're making it really easy and efficient to connect.
Exactly. And this is where Spire Labs' understanding of user experience really shines through.
Okay, so they're not just focused on the technical side of things. They're also thinking about how this all feels for the user.
Absolutely. They want to make it as intuitive and seamless as possible.
And speaking of user experience, we have to talk about pre-confirmations.
Ah, yes, pre-confirmations.
This seems to be one of Spire's big selling points.
Definitely a game changer.
The idea of near instant transaction confirmations.
Right.
Can you explain how that works and why it's such a big deal?
Sure. So imagine you make a transaction on a blockchain. Right now, you often have to wait minutes,
Yeah, sometimes even hours.
even hours, for it to be fully confirmed.
It's annoying.
It's super annoying. But with pre-confirmations, you get an almost instant confirmation that your transaction has been accepted.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like getting a receipt right away,
Yeah.
even though the actual delivery might take a bit longer.
That's a great analogy. So it's basically giving users peace of mind that their transaction is going through,
Yes.
even if it hasn't been fully finalized on the blockchain yet.
Exactly. And this makes a huge difference in terms of user experience.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It makes things feel much more responsive and less frustrating.
Right. And Spire Labs is really pushing the envelope in this area.
Yeah, from what I read, they're not tied to any specific pre-confirmation protocol.
Right. They're actually contributing to research in this area
Wow.
and building tools to help make pre-confirmations more widely adopted.
So they're facilitating innovation in the whole pre-confirmation space.
Yeah, they're playing the role of a catalyst.
Okay, that's cool. But there's another piece of the puzzle that we haven't talked about yet. MEV.
Ah, MEV, the elephant in the room.
Maximal extractable value. Right?
Yeah.
Can you break that down for us?
So MEV is basically a way for validators.
The people who secure the network, right?
Yeah, validators. To potentially prioritize certain transactions over others
Okay.
to maximize their profits.
So it's like they're playing the system a little bit?
Kinda, yeah. Yeah. It can be controversial
Why is that?
because it can sometimes lead to higher fees for users
Okay.
or even like front running, where someone jumps ahead of you in line to get a better deal.
That sounds shady.
Yeah, it can be. And it's a problem that a lot of blockchains are grappling with.
So how does Spire Labs address this MEV issue? Do they just, like, ignore it?
Not at all. They've actually built MEV considerations directly into their design.
Oh, okay. How so?
So their sequencer election model
Mm-hmm.
aims to return a portion of the MEV revenue back to the app chain.
Okay, so instead of the validators taking all the profits,
Right.
it gets shared with the app chain itself.
Exactly.
So it's like a built-in mechanism to distribute the wealth more fairly.
Yeah, exactly. And
Wow.
they're very transparent
Hmm.
about how this revenue is distributed,
Okay.
which is important.
Yeah, transparency is key in the crypto world.
Absolutely. And it all ties back to their broader philosophy of open source and credible neutrality.
Okay, so they're not just building a technology, they're building a whole philosophy around it.
I think that's a fair way to put it.
That's pretty cool. So can you explain a little bit more about like what they mean by credible neutrality?
Sure. So Spire Labs is committed to building the base stack as a public good,
Okay.
meaning it's open source, anyone can use it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not relying on a token or like a specific service provider to control the ecosystem.
So they're not trying to like corner the market or anything like that.
Exactly. They're trying to create a level playing field where everyone can benefit.
That's a pretty radical approach in the crypto world, I have to say.
It is, but I think it's what sets them apart.
It's refreshing to see. So it sounds like they have a pretty like long-term vision.
Oh, definitely. They're playing the long game.
But I'm also curious about their short-term plans.
Right.
Like, do they have any specific projects or partnerships in the works?
They do.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll be diving into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good. We'll explore their go-to-market strategy. There's
Yeah.
plans for future upgrades.
Exciting stuff.
And some of the other interesting products they're building.
right.
Lots to unpack.
Yeah.
All right, so we've covered like the big picture stuff with Spire Labs, right?
Mm-hmm. Their vision,
Yeah.
the problems they're trying to solve.
Yeah, like why they think app chains are the future and all that.
Exactly.
But, the rubber meets the road when it comes to like execution.
Right, right. How are they actually going to make this whole base stack ecosystem happen?
That's what I want to know. What's the plan?
So one thing that really stood out to me from, the materials you shared is their focus on developers.
Developers, yeah.
It's like they get it. It's not enough to just have cool technology.
Right.
You need to make it easy for developers to actually use it.
Yeah, I mean, developers are the ones who are going to build the like apps and dApps that people actually use, right?
Exactly. They're the builders, the creators, the lifeblood of the ecosystem.
So how is Spire Labs making things like developer friendly?
Well, for one, they talk a lot about creating a seamless developer experience,
Okay.
with clear documentation, code examples.
So like the basics, but done well.
Yeah, but they take it a step further. They're also offering real-time support.
Wow. So developers can like get help right away if they run into problems.
Exactly. It's
Hmm.
like they're taking a page from the best software companies out there.
Yeah, they realize that like developer adoption is crucial for success.
Totally. And it's not just about attracting new developers either.
Oh, okay. So who else are they targeting?
They're also thinking about developers who are already building on other platforms.
Right, like those who might be thinking about switching over to Spire.
Exactly. And for those developers, they're creating a dedicated migration team.
A migration team, interesting. What do they do?
So they help developers move their existing apps over to Spire Appchains.
So it's like not just building a better mousetrap, but making it super easy to like switch over from the old mousetrap.
Exactly. They're removing all the friction.
Okay, that makes sense. But I mean, what about the users?
Right. The end users. That's another big focus for Spire Labs.
They're not just focused on the tech, they're thinking about the people who are actually going to be using it.
Exactly. They want to make sure the user experience is smooth, enjoyable, and easy to understand.
Which, let's be honest, hasn't always been the case in crypto, right?
You got that right. I've definitely had my fair share of frustrating experiences.
Yeah, clunky interfaces, slow transactions, confusing jargon.
Ugh, tell me about it. But Spire Labs is trying to change that.
So how are they doing that?
Well, for starters, those near-instant transaction confirmations we talked about, powered by pre-confirmations.
These are right, pre-confirmations. That seems like a big deal.
It is a big deal. It means you don't have to wait forever for your transactions to go through.
Yeah, imagine like using a DeFi app where everything happens in real time.
Exactly. No more waiting around, wondering if your transaction went through or not.
That would be a game changer.
Totally. And from what I understand, Spire Labs is actively working with all sorts of infrastructure partners to make this happen.
Infrastructure partners.
Yeah, like bridges, blockchain explorers, wallets, all the things that make up the crypto ecosystem.
They're not trying to like reinvent the wheel.
Not at all. They're integrating with existing tools and services to make it as easy as possible for users to adopt Spire Appchains.
It's like they're building on top of what's already there, but making it better.
Exactly. It's a smart strategy.
Yeah.
And it speaks to their commitment to credible neutrality.
Right. Credible neutrality. Making sure no single provider has too much power over the ecosystem.
Exactly.
Okay. So they're focused on developers, they're focused on user experience, and they're working with partners to make it all happen.
Mm-hmm. And on top of all that, they're looking to attract those killer apps.
Killer apps, huh?
The apps that'll really showcase the power of the base stack and drive mainstream adoption.
So they're not just accepting any app that comes along.
Nope. They're being selective.
What are they looking for?
They're targeting existing projects that are looking to scale, app chains that could benefit from the base stack's unique features, and promising new projects with strong teams.
So they're curating the ecosystem in a way.
In a way, yeah. Nurturing an environment where the best and brightest projects can flourish.
Interesting approach. So how do they plan to get things started?
They're planning to launch a few flagship app chains in partnership with select applications.
Flagship app chains, like model examples.
Yeah, to demonstrate what's possible with the base stack.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly. They're not just talking about it, they're showing it.
That's cool. And they might even launch a few of their own app chains, right?
Potentially, yeah. To demonstrate specific features in more detail.
Okay, so they're really going all in on this.
They're committed, that's for sure.
So we've talked about their focus on developers, user experience, partnerships, and real-world applications.
Right.
But what about the technology itself?
The base stack.
Yeah, is it like a finished product? Or do they have plans for future upgrades?
Oh, they have a whole roadmap of upgrades and enhancements planned.
Oh, wow. Okay. Like what?
Things like ZK-proof aggregation.
ZK-proof aggregation. Okay, now you're losing me a little bit.
It's basically a way to bundle up a bunch of transactions and prove their validity all at once.
So, like, instead of sending a bunch of individual letters, you send one giant package.
Yeah, exactly. It saves time and money.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's all about making the system more efficient and scalable.
Exactly. And they're also exploring blob aggregation.
Blob aggregation. Okay, what's that?
It's about reducing data availability costs.
So making it cheaper to store data on the blockchain.
Basically, yeah. It's like compressing a file so it takes up less space.
Okay, I get it. More efficiency, lower costs.
Right. They're always looking for ways to improve.
That's great. And what about the user experience? Any plans to improve that even further?
Absolutely. They're exploring something called real-time proving.
Real-time.
Yeah, it's all about making the integration between app chains and Ethereum even tighter.
So instead of separate systems that communicate every once in a while, it'd be more like a constant flow of information.
That's the idea. It's still early days, but it has a lot of potential.
Wow, they're really packing a lot into this base stack.
It's ambitious, that's for sure.
And we haven't even touched on their work on pre-confirmations yet. Can we dive into that a bit more?
Sure, yeah. Pre-confirmations are a big part of their vision for a more user-friendly crypto experience.
And they're not just integrating pre-confirmations into the base stack, right? They're also building tools for the broader ecosystem.
Exactly. That's where the pre-confirmation registry and the pre-confirmation RPC come in.
Right, those two things. Can you remind us what those are all about?
Okay, so the pre-confirmation registry is like a public ledger that keeps track of everything related to pre-confirmations.
Like what kind of things?
Collateral, slashing, registration, even delegation.
So it's making sure everyone is playing by the rules.
Exactly. It provides a transparent and accountable framework for validators who want to participate in the pre-confirmation ecosystem.
Okay, so that's the registry. And what about the RPC?
The pre-confirmation RPC is more user-focused. It's basically a sophisticated server that simplifies pre-confirmation access.
Simplify.
Yeah, it abstracts away all the technical complexity.
So users don't need to understand all the nitty-gritty details to benefit from pre-confirmations.
Exactly. It makes it much easier for everyday users to get those near-instant confirmations.
It's awesome. And they're making both the registry and the RPC open source, right?
Yes. encouraging competition and ensuring no single entity controls these critical components.
It all goes back to their commitment to decentralization.
It does.
Okay, so Spire Labs is building this amazing technology. They're working with partners. They're focused on user experience. They're attracting killer apps.
They're really going for it.
It's a lot to take in. But there's still one big question on my mind.
And what's that?
How does Spire Labs itself plan to make money?
Ah, yes. Yeah. The million-dollar question.
Especially given their commitment to open source and credible neutrality.
Right. It's a tricky balance.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we'll finally get to the bottom of this mystery.
We'll unravel the secrets of Spire Labs' revenue model. Stay tuned.
All right, so we've gone deep on Spire Labs.
Yeah.
Their tech, their vision,
Yeah.
how they want to build this whole app chain ecosystem.
Right, right.
But the big question, the one I bet everyone's wondering, is
Yeah.
how do they plan to make money?
The million-dollar question.
Right, especially with all this talk about open source and,
Credible neutrality.
credible neutrality. Exactly.
It's a good question. And, Spire Labs is doing things a bit differently here.
Okay.
They're not going with that typical crypto playbook,
What do you mean?
launching a token hoping it goes to the moon,
Right.
which, let's be honest, sometimes feels a bit like a cash grab.
Yeah, sometimes.
And it can create conflicts of interest.
Okay.
So Spire Labs is trying to steer clear of that
Interesting.
by focusing on revenue streams that directly benefit the app chains using their platform.
So they make money when the app chains using their platform make money.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of a win-win approach.
Okay, I like that.
They're basically saying, look, we're going to make money by providing valuable services.
Okay.
Services that help the whole ecosystem succeed.
It's a refreshing change of pace,
It is. It aligns with their commitment to building a public good.
Right.
They're not just trying to extract value at every turn.
Okay, yeah.
They're trying to create value that everyone can share in.
All right. So what are some of these value add services they're planning on offering?
Well, remember those protocol upgrades we talked about earlier?
Like a ZK proof aggregation and...
Yeah, ZK proof aggregation, blob aggregation.
Right.
All those require ongoing development and maintenance.
Right, and that's not cheap.
Not cheap at all. So Spire Labs sees an opportunity there
Okay.
to provide those upgrade services to app chains.
So like a subscription model?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
App chains pay for access to the latest tech, the best features.
Makes sense. It keeps Spire Labs innovating,
Right.
and the app chains get to stay on the cutting edge.
Exactly. Everybody wins.
Okay, and what else?
They're also exploring ways to monetize those pre-confirmation tools.
The registry and the RPC.
Yeah, the pre-confirmation registry and the pre-confirmation RBC.
Right, for validators and users, right.
Exactly. Those tools help manage and simplify pre-confirmations.
Okay.
So they could charge a fee for access, maybe offer premium features.
I could see that being attractive, especially for validators who want to offer a smoother experience.
Yeah. And developers too.
Right. Streamline things, make it easier for everyone.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But it's still open source, right?
Of course. That's a core principle for Spire Labs.
Okay.
So even if they charge for some features, the core functionality will always be free. It's not about locking people in. It's about giving more options.
Right. More value for those who want it.
I like it. And they're being transparent about all this.
Right. Absolutely. They've got all the details out in the open.
That's good, especially in crypto.
Yeah. Transparency builds trust.
It does. It seems like they're really in it for the long haul.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. No quick flips or cash grabs here.
They're building a real business, and they're doing it the right way.
That's the impression I get, too.
So big picture, Spire Labs is taking a different approach.
Yeah.
They're not just about the tech.
Mm-hmm.
It's the collaboration, the user experience, the long-term vision.
Right. It's about creating value for everyone involved.
And, it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out.
It will. Will they get enough developers?
Well,
Enough users?
Right. Can they make it all work financially without, compromising their values?
Lots of questions.
Yeah.
But it's a story worth following.
It is.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening who wants to learn more, go check out their website, their documentation, all that good stuff.
It's all out there, and they're very open to engagement,
That's great. Spire Labs is offering a really compelling vision for the future of app chains.
Compelling and thought-provoking.
As we keep exploring this whole decentralized world, we'll definitely keep you all updated.
For sure, on Spire Labs and all the exciting developments in the space.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll catch you next time.